Welcome to the Literary Escape Podcast, the only podcast that serves both readers and authors of historical Christian romance. We read, discuss, review, and rate books in this unique romance subgenre, and sprinkle in a few contemporary Christian suspense books. Authors, we bring you inside tips and tricks from those who have gone before you. Then we bring both readers and authors together for fun-filled live Q&As. Literary Escape is the one-stop shop for both readers and authors to connect, learn, and grow together. Let's dive into this adventurous episode. Welcome back, everyone, to another Literary Escape episode, and we are so excited to have Susan May Warren with us today to talk about her most recent series, The Call of the Wild. So welcome, Susan.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yes, and the newest book that you have coming out. So the first book was Track of Courage, and then the second book is The Scent of Hope, and that will be coming out June 2nd of 26. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Can I just start off? We love to ask this question. What drew you to writing contemporary Christian suspense romance?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, I always say that when an author starts to write, they should write what they already read because it's a very natural segue into writing. There's always so much to learn about writing a great story and character layering and how to build tension and story world and everything that you should write what you already know, what you already enjoy writing, those beats. And I think that if you are, or what you already enjoy reading. So if you are, so I always tell people, look at your shelf, look what you already are reading. And even if you read widely like I do, there's probably something that dominates, right? And so pull that off and start writing there. So that's where I started. Started in romantic suspense and really loved writing that. I like the fast paced elements of it. I like falling in love on the way, just all of those things. I sort of segued into romantic adventure because I'm just not as big into the cops and robbers, sort of thing. And I don't like real dark stuff. So I went into the man versus nature kind of thing where it's like, a bus goes over the cliff and then a bunch of kids have to learn how to survive or something like that. That's more my speed. I don't know why, but it's just, I always feel like it's a interesting thing to see how people survive. So anyway, so that's kind of how I got into it. And then I wrote contemporary romance because that's my second favorite genre. And then I've written a lot of, I've written historicals and historical romance and rom-coms and all sorts of things. So yeah, it's fun.
It is fun. And I love what you said. You should write in what you read, like your favorite genre. You learn so much just from what you read.
Yeah.
As to what makes a great story.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure.
You get the rhythm inside of you and figure out what you like. And yeah.
Yeah. So what does a typical writing day look like for you?
Well, I write 3 days a week. And so on Mondays are my admin day. And so I spend all day working on, the business. I work on, marketing and other things. And I run a publishing company too. So I work on that. So that's my Mondays. And then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, all day I write. And so I get up early. I have a daily quiet time. And then I start writing usually around 9. And then I write usually until around 6 or 7 at night. And so I can get a lot done. I can get about 10,000 words written during that time, usually 3 or 4 scenes. And I just kind of, sort of, and they're messy. Like I write messy first drafts, but I'm just getting it down. And recently, and probably in the last 2 years, I started voice texting. So like voice to text, and that helps a lot. It gets that first draft down and really helps you have something to work with. It's really messy and needs a lot of editing, but it's very helpful. So that ups my speed a lot. And I like it because I feel like I'm right there in the story, in the character's head. So the dialogue feels really fresh and raw. And, I don't spend as much time on the research details of the story world. I'll go back and weave those in later during my editing phase or my second pass. But that dialogue is really crisp and fun and, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, so I write all day. And then usually Thursday nights, I often will teach a class at Novel Academy. So I will kind of quit, sort of like midday on Thursday and write my class. And then Friday I use as sort of a catch-up day. So if I haven't written as much as I wanted, or I want something, I'm working on a scene and I want to fix it, or I have a scene in my head, that's when I use as my Fridays. But otherwise, Fridays are sort of the day that I do all the other things that I need to do for my life.
Yeah, it's just normal life, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yes.
it's a kind of a 4-day work week, but Fridays are my extra day that I do a lot of fun things. So yeah.
That's wonderful. And I will say, I'm thinking maybe some of our listeners might already know this, but Susan does excellent teaching. Also you have a couple books I've read on writing romance
Yes.
that
Yes.
How to Write a Brilliant Romance
How to write a
and
brilliant novel, how to write a brilliant romance, advanced brilliant writing, which a lot of people don't know about, but it's all about
okay.
like, oh, how to handle flashbacks and how to have tension in every scene and just all those other little things. And then I wrote the story equation, which is kind of like my
Yes.
premier book on how to write. So yeah.
Yes. And I love the story equation book. I used that myself when I first got into writing. It was the one equation that worked for me.
Yeah.
Everybody's got a little takes bits and pieces of different ones, but
Yeah.
excellent. And you have My Book Therapy, right? And there's
Well,
a
yeah, so that's the parent company of
okay.
Novel Academy. So for a while, I
Okay.
had a lot of, like I had my book therapy, and then I had Novel Rocket, and Novel Academy, and learn how to write a novel. And so now it's all under the Novel Academy kind of banner. And so, but
Mhm.
then we also produce the planner, which is for writers, and it's really a great planner. So yeah, it's fun. It feels like a natural segue. A lot of people ask, how
Mhm.
do you write? And so it just felt like a natural thing to create the school, create the classes, and that sort of thing. So, and we're now
Yeah.
the longest running Christian school for writers on the internet. So that's been really fun. We've lasted. We're about 20 years old now. So that's super crazy to me.
Well, congratulations. That's
Thank you.
exciting.
Yeah, it really is. It's
Yeah.
fun.
I
And
do
we've
love
seen
the
a lot of
planner.
people get published. Oh, you have the
Yeah.
planner. Nice.
I do. This is my second year with it. So anybody listening, I highly recommend that as well.
Thank you.
So yeah.
Thank you. I love the planner. It's kind of like it helps work with people's brains that like to think in big chunks of time instead of like
hmm
15-minute increments. It's like it's for creatives, really. So
Oh
yeah.
yeah. Yeah. It's laid out so well. And do you have that complimentary course to go with it? So
Yeah,
to kind
so
of
we still
walk you
have
through the
that course.
sections?
Yeah, yeah, we still do the course, and then we have add-ons and worksheets and all sorts of stuff. And then we have a new thing. We have this planner that's like a desktop planner that you can get, and it folds in half. Like I use mine all the time. So this is mine from this year, but I use both the hard planner because I want to keep track of what I'm doing, and then this one has like all my notes in it and all the stuff that I want to do. So it's a really great companion to just keep by your desk and keep notes in and stuff like that as you're having meetings or whatever. And then the other one is great that's where I keep my quiet time, where I journal everything, and then I can see
Yeah.
what I'm doing for the week. I can pray over it. Yeah. Anyway, yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Oh,
fun.
that's wonderful. I didn't know that you had the half one for the desk. That's exciting.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a good tool. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so that's for section for any writers listening that
Right.
haven't connected with her yet. You definitely want to do that. So let's dive into your series a little bit.
Okay.
So, like, where did the idea for the series come from?
So, if anyone's read my books, they know that they're all sort of connected, right? So, I finish writing one family, and then you sort of meet another family or another group of people, and they're kind of all connected. So, I had written in Alaska for a long time. I have a number of series set up there, and my last series prior to this one was called the Air One Rescue series, and so it was a series about a search and rescue team, and the head of that was a guy named Moose Mulligan, and Moose was just this great guy, and he has a brother named, and now his name is Axel. And so anyway, I was trying to remember what his name was. And so then, and they have a cousin named Dawson. So Dawson was kind of came into the series in the latter part of the series, and he's a cop. And as soon as Dawson walked on the page, I was like, oh, he needs a story. He's totally taken over this. He's funny and smart and charismatic and handsome and brave and all these things. And so, but I had something that happened to him at the end of, well, kind of in a segue book that happened at the end of that series and the beginning of it, so that when he entered this story, he was wounded and not the same guy he was. And so it was really interesting because as soon as I met him, I was like, he needs a story. And at the same time, my editor called and she says, you haven't done any dog books. And I've done a couple dog books in the past, but she's like, I think you should need to do like a search and rescue canine book. And I thought, oh, okay, we could try that. And I didn't want to just have regular canines like with I wanted them to be interesting canines. And so my dogs are very interesting. It's Caspian, Orlando, and the third one is, I keep doing this. I keep forgetting the third story. Anyway, but they are great dogs, and they are very interesting dogs. And so they're not your usual search and rescue dog. And I wanted to create a story that had the dog as a central character. Like that was the hardest part about writing the story, is that the dog was his own person and own character. And so he had to have his own arc. So we have Dawson, we have this dog that he kind of gets at the end of the series, the previous series, and now he doesn't know what to do with, but the dog turns out to be exactly who he needs. And then we have the main character, her name is Keely, and Keely she's a huge music star. And I've done country music stars in the past, but Keely is like Taylor Swift. She's like huge. They call her Bliss. She's like a mega star. And so I thought, what if we put Keely in Alaska and had her meet Dawson and the dog? What would happen? So this was kind of my thinking. And then I just sort of signed up for the journey and off we went into the woods. It was fun.
That sounds very interesting. There was another series I've read of yours that you had the country music star. I feel like in the
Yes.
first book of that series as well. But
Yes.
yeah, okay, that's awesome. So will there be 3 in this one then?
There will be 3.
Okay.
The third one is called Trail of the Brave. Oh, and
Okay.
it's a great story too. And if I can remember the dog's name, I will tell you. I don't know
That's what
why.
happens when you have lots of projects going and
I
you know,
do. I do. I had 2,
done.
so my 2 country music stars, I've had 2. One was at the beginning of Wild Montana Skies, and it was the Montana Search and Rescue. And then later on I used, so his name was Ben. He's in a lot of books. And then he had a protege named Oaken, and Oaken was the lead in Air One Rescue. So I've had 2 country music stars. Yes. So
Okay.
yes. Yes.
What so far in the series, what's the hardest scene you've had to write, you feel like?
Well, okay, so there was a scene that it was in Trek of Courage that it was in my head a long time, and it was this scene. Okay, so my hero and heroine get together quite quick, so it's not quite an insta romance, but they do get together quickly because I always feel like when people are thrown together in a survival situation, they get to know each other quite well quickly. So the story progresses, and they are thrown together by circumstances. He ends up having to like track her down and save her, but then they have to survive a blizzard, and they end up at this kind of cool location where there's other people and they have to survive this blizzard. And I had this scene in my head where, so there's a bad guy out there and he's trying to sabotage and find them. And in one scene, he causes a fire. And in this scene, my hero Dawson goes out and he has put out the fire. And when he gets done, he can't find Keely. And he goes to find her. And when he does, there's this amazing kiss that they have because he's just very emotional. Well, when I first wrote that scene, I wrote it like in chapter 4. And when I finished writing it, it was great. I realized this doesn't belong here. It's too soon. He wouldn't do this soon. So then I had to figure out where else to put it. So then I like took it out and rewrote that scene. And then I wrote that next scene. And then I put it into chapter 5. And I was like, nope, doesn't work here too. So I took that out and I had to keep moving it till I found the right exact place for it. So I think that was the challenge, is that I kept having to like move it. And every time you move it, some things change in the scene because things have happened before. So then you have to rewrite it. So I think I rewrote that scene 3 times to get it exactly right. But when it did happen, it was good and I liked it. So that was
And
good.
it, right? Like it fits perfect and you're like, that's where it belongs.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
So do you do a lot of research then into like the suspense or like law enforcement procedures, all
Yeah,
of
for
that?
sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You have to, because otherwise people will write to you and say, you got this all wrong. So, and I know that I'm probably going to get some things wrong, but I try very, very hard not to. So, yeah. So actually, the funny story is in Trek of Courage, I wrote that book a long time ago. And the reason I wrote it a long time, like I wrote it almost 2 years ago, probably because I needed to get it right. And I knew it would take me a long time to get it right. So I wrote the first draft and then I sent it to a girlfriend of mine who has dogs and has trained dogs. And so she knows a lot about dogs, and she read it and she's a fan. And she said, "Oh, Susie, I have loved every book you've ever written except for this one." And I'm like, "Oh no, I got it wrong." And she says, "You did. You got the dog wrong." And I kind of thought I had, but I wasn't sure, which is why I sent it to her. So I got the manuscript back. And again, I had lots of time because I write my books way in advance so that I can rework them if I need to. So I had to go back and I had to research this dog and this kind of dog and the training for this kind of dog. And I thought I had, but once she told me things, I got into it deeper and I realized, oh, I needed to change some stuff. And so then I had to go back to the drawing board and I rewrote the dog. The dogs gave me the most problem because the humans I can handle. It's like I can figure out like Dawson, he got shot and he had a full knee replacement. And I was like, okay, I got that. I understand that because I wasn't shot, but I had my full knee replaced. And I was like, I get that. Okay. So that was easy. And there was a lot that I had already, and because I'm in Alaska a lot, I know a lot of, not in Alaska, but because I write books set in Alaska a lot, I know
Yeah.
a lot of stuff. But the dog thing I just didn't get right. So then I had to rewrite it. And then she's like, you nailed it, which is good. So, I think that was probably the hardest thing to research, but I do my bookshelves are full of books and memoirs and training manuals. Like I have training manuals on how to put out a wildfire, how to put, first aid in the bush, like it's just crazy manuals. I have like the teachers or the nursing manual from 1940s from when I wrote my nursing book and the Nightingale. So, it's like I just, yeah, anyway, I have a lot of crazy. I'm one of those great people at parties because I have random facts in my head. So I'll be like, did you know? And then of course people are like, no, and I don't care. So it's
You'd be
all
great
right
at
though.
trivia, is what you'd
Yeah,
be
I
great
know
to
a
have
lot of
on the
trivia
trivia
stuff.
team.
Yeah, it's true.
So with that, do you also have like experts in the field that you reach out to as well?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
I
So I
mean,
have
I know you had your
firefighters.
friend. Yeah.
Yeah, firefighter friends, wildfire friends, search and rescue friends, dog training friends, cowboy friends, rodeo friends. I have all these and it's funny how God kind of brings those people to me. Like I'll be on a plane and I'll be working on like one time I was working on a Greek story and I set of these two guys set in Greece and I got on a plane and wouldn't you know it, I sat next to a Greek guy. And so then I was like, okay, I asked him all these questions. One time I was sitting next to a Navy SEAL. That was great. One time I said, like, I got to go on trips so that I'll be in the middle of my research. I'll be like, I need to meet someone who, and then, I pray about it, I go on a trip and I meet them. So it's
That is
really
so
great.
cool.
Yeah, it's really fun. So,
So
and then I'm
cool.
like, oh, can I email you sometime? And so then I try to, connect with them over Facebook or whatever. So anyway, yeah, it's really great. And so I do try to do that as much as I possibly can. I think if you can't find someone, one of my best tricks is memoirs. I go and I read a lot of memoirs about people in that profession. And that kind of gets me into the mindset. And then from there, and sometimes I reach out to people that have written the memoir and say, can I ask you questions? And so that helps too. Yeah.
Wow. Very cool.
Yeah.
So, do you find it difficult, or how do you handle those topics of like trauma, grief, moral failures? Because you talked about your one character comes in wounded.
Yeah.
How do you do that through that faith lens?
Well, yeah, that's hard. I think first of all, you gotta approach it honestly. So I always try to go back to when have I felt like that? Like everybody has in their past something, not necessarily everything that people have experienced, but something that's made them feel victimized or vulnerable or shamed or whatever, compromised, whatever it is, weak, overwhelmed, these things. So I always go back to myself and I say, what did I feel in that moment? And then I say, what lie did I believe in that moment? Because I think we spend a lot of times mucking about in our lives and living our lives by lies that we believe. And I believe that the journey of our faith is to submit to the Lord so He can break us free of those lies and insert truth in our lives so that we can live in freedom and in wholeness. But we have to be willing to face the lie and to
Yeah.
grab onto the truth, right? So that is really the journey of my characters. And so I start them in a really authentic place where I feel like, okay, I've connected and I've made it a real emotion. And then I bring them through, okay, maybe they're believing a lie. And throughout the story, I might have little truthlets that are dropped in. And then, of course, at the black moment, they really believe the lie. But then the journey has, sort of helped them see truth. And so then they have their epiphany and they can do something at the end they couldn't at the beginning. And so that's kind of how I shape it. But I don't shy away from dark things, or when I say dark things, I mean wounded things. And I'm also very careful about it's not the kind of wounds my characters have, but how I describe them, where I take my reader. because I don't want to take my reader to a place where, because it's reading is such, it gets in your head, right? So I'm very careful. Like I'm very careful about what I watch on TV. I won't watch really dark and violent shows. I won't watch those. I won't watch shows that have too much sex and stuff in them. I won't watch those. I'm really picky about what I watch because it goes into my head. And it's the same way with my reading. I'm like, I'm really picky about what I read. If I feel like it's just too dark, I'm just not going to read it. So I think about that with my readers too. I'm like, okay, I want it to be honest, but not everything needs to be on the page. Some things we just gloss over, whatever, and move on. So anyway.
No, I appreciate that. And what you take in is what comes out, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you do have to be very careful about what you're watching and reading. So thanks for putting great content out for us
Sure. You're
to
welcome. You're
enjoy.
welcome. Yes. Well, I think I feel like it's a promise I make to my readers that they can trust me, and I take it really seriously.
Yeah. So on that note, what do you hope your readers walk away with spiritually from your stories?
Right. So my themes always are second chances. My themes are always that God has a plan, God loves you, and there's nothing that you can do to separate yourself from God's love, and that He is always willing to give you that second chance. And so my characters are wounded, and they usually sometimes they've walked away from God, sometimes they haven't. Sometimes they all believe lies. Although sometimes I might have a stronger Christian in the pairing that can kind of lead the way. I like a couple of people like Hamilton Jones is one of my strong Christian characters that, sort of everybody gravitates around, but he himself believed in a lie that he had to be set free from. But we have, I have those kind of situations, and now I can't remember what the question was. So anyway.
Just what you hope your readers walk away with
Yes. So I
spiritually.
hope my readers walk away with a fresh understanding of who God is and how much he loves them. That's my goal. I don't proselytize. My readers have very real faith journeys. Some of them, end the story. I try to always end the story with a little piece of truth where they're in a better place than where they started. But not all of them, find themselves just, redeemed and everybody's happy. They find themselves in a better place. So I think that my goal has always been to help my reader get into the skin of the character, go on the journey, and if they can feel what the character's feeling, then they can also experience the truth that the character receives, and hopefully it will set them free a little bit, and they will be able to see God's love for them just a little bit more. So that's
I love that. And you know what? That's what I love about reading Christian fiction, because the authors like you that do it well, you really do walk away feeling like there's a new truth, a different way of viewing God or understanding God that you didn't have before.
Yeah.
It's not just an empty, like, the time you
Yeah, it's not
invested in
just
reading the book was
right.
worth it,
Right. I
Yeah.
totally agree. Like I read a lot, and I gravitate towards Christian fiction. I don't read a lot of secular stuff, mostly because I end up going, well, why did I read that? That was empty. I didn't really enjoy that. So I want something that's going to feed my soul at the end. I don't want a ton of preaching, but I want some nugget that makes me go, I like that book. Yeah.
Yeah. Are there any characters in this series that you really connected with the most?
Well, in the first book, I really connected with Keely a lot. I really liked her. She's my pop singer, but she has this big life, but she's kind of like left it behind briefly to go to Alaska to search for her birth mom. And when she finds her birth mom, she's like unable to talk to her because it's too stressful for her. And part of her journey is she wants to know why her mom gave her up. And so I really love that. So I'm adopted myself. So I've never gone on that journey. I don't need to go on that journey, but I was curious about it for her. And so I think I really connected to Keely in that way, that sense of wanting to belong and to heal that little broken place inside of her. So I really loved that about her. So yeah, that was great. And I could relate to Dawson's frustration about his stupid knee and why it wouldn't work and why he couldn't do all the things he wanted to do, and totally get that.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, having walked through that surgery
yeah.
as well, definitely.
Yeah.
So you kind of touched on this a little bit when you talked about like you can't put them together too fast. But how do you develop that authentic chemistry between your hero and your heroine?
Yeah, I think it's well, I have a couple of methods. First is that I always know what kind of structure I'm going into with a romance. So not to get too, like writer nerdy on you, but I always am like, is it a what's it called, a why not, or a why not why? So every character walks into the story, and when they meet the hero, and the hero meets the hero and whoever, or the hero meets the heroine, they always look at the romance, and from their perspective, they think yes or no. If they think yes, then connect a few different ways. And I call it the 5 ways that fools fall, or the 3 ways that fools fall in love, right? So they connect on shared values, they make each other better people, and they complete each other. And they do that through stories that they tell each other and actions that they do together. And so obviously with suspense, they can do a lot of fun things together that show that they're a good team, right? But I also have the why not. So there's a why not, where they get together and then bam, something happens and they go, oh, I can't be with him. He's the man who killed my brother, or whatever, So then you're
Yeah.
like, oh, that's the why not, right? Or you have the why not why. So the why not is right away. So she meets him. She's like, oh no, I can't be with him. He's the guy that killed my brother. And then she realizes, oh wait, there's extenuating circumstances and da 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 da, and the brother wants them to be together, whatever. And then that's the why. So it's always about the rhythm of the romance. Is it going to be, a yes first and then a no, or is it going to be a no first and then a yes? And then of course they always have the breakup. So I use that structure, and then I use these techniques of, the way fools fall in love, the 3 things. And then I use a lot of stories, a lot of situations where they have to spend time together, where they get to know each other, where they can heal each other's wounds, this sort of thing, to get them to fall in love. So those are kind of how I do it.
Yeah. Wonderful.
I
I
have a
am
book on
curious.
that.
I know. I was gonna say there's a lot in your which one is it?
It's How to Write
You
a
are
Brilliant Romance. Yeah.
Yes, that's the one because I'm like, it sounds very familiar. I have that one on my shelf over here. So it's a great one. But how do you handle writer's block? Do
Oh,
you
well,
ever
for
come up
me,
against that?
yeah, I don't really come up against it too much because I'm
Okay.
always asking myself, well, what is the scariest thing that could happen to them next? And then I figure that out, and that becomes the next thing. So it's
Yeah.
either relationally or physically or spiritually, whatever. And I'm like, what is the next step? And so if I might have a block where I'm like, well, I'm not sure where to start this scene, or where to, what the issues are of the scene. And then a lot of times I'll just start writing, and then it'll surface in the middle of the scene. And then I'll be like, oh, that's my first line. I got to put that right there. I often will talk it out and say, okay, this is what I think is going to happen. I used to I call my friend Rachel a lot, and we work on scenes together. But I think that the thing is, you got to just say, what are they most scared of next? What is the worst thing that could happen next? And obviously it's not like, oh, that her family will die. Well, if they're all safe on a seaside resort in Florida, then death is not imminent, right? But it could be that somebody, I mean, I don't know, we can figure out something that makes them something bad. So
Hmm.
somebody's going to show up that she doesn't expect, like, sort of like the evil neighbor next door or something. I don't know. I always am like, what is that next bad thing? So I'm always brainstorming those kind of things and coming up with
Yeah.
ideas.
Have you ever found yourself like just maybe on one of your trips or something, and then you kind of people watch or you watch things and like an idea
All the
comes
time.
in? Yeah.
All the time. Like I have a whole notebook of people that I've met that I'm like, what if this, what if that? Like
Hmm.
I have, yeah. And because I'm constantly looking for plot ideas and story ideas, and I am fascinated with people. Like, why is that person wearing that? Why are they doing that? Why do they behave that way? This sort
Yeah.
of thing. So yeah, I love it. So yeah, I do that a lot, and I keep notes. So
Yeah.
there you go.
I say you do an excellent job of coming up with like what's the next like worst thing. I this is not this series because I haven't been able to read these books yet.
That's
But I'm looking
okay.
forward to it. But there's one that you had where she got put in like a Russian. It's not a prison. What do you call
Yes.
it?
Yes, it was a gulag. Yes, it was Ned and it was Shay. I think it was. Yes, and that was a great one. So that's a great one. It reminds me
Yeah.
of a character named Jonah Lyon, or Judah Lyon. I gotta put him back into my books. But anyway, she got kidnapped and got sent to Russia, and her for a reason. and Ned has to go find her. And I pulled on all my Russian history because, I lived in Russia for 10 years and, everything. And then I had this guy next to her on the ship. I was like, what is the best gulag? Oh, a ship. And so then she was on the ship. And so then I learned a lot about ships because I had to like put that together. And then I had this guy next to her, Judah Lyon, and he was great. And he
Yes.
helped her a lot. So anyway,
Yeah.
I really liked him. And so,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's probably the worst scenario. You do quite a bit, but that's the one that stuck with me of all your books that I've read that I thought I just can't even imagine. You think like, oh, she's okay, and then not so much. So
Yeah, yeah,
so you did a great
yeah. That
job.
was a crazy one. That was a nuts. Poor Shay. She's been through a lot. If you followed her at all through the Montana Rescue series, and
Hmm.
then poor girl.
Yeah.
She
She
deserves a
gets her
happy ending.
happily ever afters.
She does. She does.
I
So
know
that
you
was
talked
fun.
like you love to do second chances, but are there any like do you have like a top 3 favorite tropes you like to write about or read about?
Oh yeah. Let's see here. Well, I love to bring people back from the dead. So I've done this numerous times. So like people, so that's like, we thought we were dead and now we're alive and now, oh, he's back. So I love that one. I do love, yeah. So in the same token, the death of a relationship, and then so like it's called a re-romance where they broke up before, but then they're back together. So I like those a lot. So second chance at love, I guess is what it's called. And then I don't know. I like amnesia, but not everybody likes amnesia, so I don't write that as often. I did a poll once on what people like, and it's like small town, second chance at love. Enemies to lovers is actually a very common one. I don't like that as much unless they have a really good reason to not be together. So anyway, yeah, so I don't do that as much, but I have done that in the past. So I definitely like people that work together that clash, like rivals. I like that a lot too. So yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Those are to me those are hard to write because I don't like confrontation in that
Yeah.
like in my real life, and I'm sure you're not that way either, but I struggle then to put that in with my characters because it's something I avoid.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I think more than Rivals, Grumpy Sunshine is one of my
oh,
favorites too, because you get
yeah.
this really grumpy guy and happy girl or vice versa. So yeah,
Hmm.
that's fun. But yes, I think a lot of people struggle with putting conflict in their stories, but conflict is what drives stories. We're like, what? I can't believe you said that. So like I'm always like, how do I make this more juicy,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
No, you do a great job with it. Do you have like Christian romance novels that you return to again and again that you just really enjoy?
Well, I was a massive and still am a massive Dee Henderson fan, so I read hers a lot. I read rom-coms. I like Emma St. Clair a lot, and so I like her. I like Courtney Wall. She's a great writer. I read Rachel Houck. She's my writing partner, so I read hers a lot. And Terry Ferris, who writes with me, but I'm also a fan of Terry Ferris. She writes small town romances, and she's really good. She's really a great writer. Let's see who else. I'm trying to think some of the other ones that I've pulled. I like historical, so I'm really a fan of Gabriel Meyer's A Timeless series. I've read almost all of them, and they're really good. So I do like historicals a lot. Trying to think what else. So yeah, just kind of but I read a lot. I take a chance on a
Yeah.
lot of stuff. So I've read, and a lot of them are my friends too. So I like to read the books that my friends have written. So I do read a
Yeah.
lot of that sort of thing. Robin Patchen and Misty Beller and Lacey Williams and Hallie Bridgman. I read her stuff. So and oh, Ronnie Kendig. I love Ronnie's books. So yeah, just
Yeah.
kind of everybody.
Just everybody. That's awesome. So I have to ask, what's the most surprising response that you've gotten on one of your books?
Golly, that's a hard question. I know which one it is. So when I first started writing, this is a funny story. So when I first started writing, it was my second book. And I had written a book set in Russia, and it was called In Sheep's Clothing, and it was based on true events. So basically, we lived in Russia. There were two missionaries got murdered in Russia, and we had a friend that I thought he did it because he was like Russian, and he was like he'd been in Gulag, but he'd also been like working with like not the KGB, but like some shifty guy. So anyway, but he was also a really good guy, and he was a Christian. So I was like really baffled by all of this. And so come to find out as we did the story that the missionaries were helping smuggle North Koreans into Russia. Okay, so that's why they were doing that, and they and involved with, or what they were, what's it called when they were like taking business away from another group of people, and so anyway, but during all of that, I came up with this idea about. So one of the other things was that there was this Russian church that had this pastor, and he was like, there was, so in Russia there was the underground church and there was the above ground church, and the above ground church was sanctioned by the state, so and the state would put in their own pastors. So you're like, what, what's really going on? And so in this particular book, the pastor was bad. He was a bad guy, and he was doing all the things that were bad, and he was part of the smuggling operation and all this other kind of stuff. So anyway, so and in the story, this FSB guy gets redeemed. This is a great story of redemption, and it has super many layers. It's about a missionary. You think she hasn't won anyone to the Lord. So it was really early in my career, and so I love this story. She brings this KGB guy to the Lord, and it's just a fun story. It actually won some awards. Anyway,
Wonderful.
so yeah, so my husband was really proud of me, and he gives the book to our pastor, our small town pastor. And our small town pastor wrote me a letter and said, I hated this book. And he went on to tell me why. He says it was super well written, and I hated it even more because of that. He didn't like that the pastor was the bad guy. And so I don't know what his issue was, but he was like, he didn't like it. And I tried to explain, in my author's note, I explained this whole thing and how it was the above ground church, and it was really kind of, anyway, my husband was so mad. He went to the pastor and he says, don't you ever say something like that to her again. And he was like so mad about it. And he was such a hero. I've already mentioned how awesome he is. And so he was such a hero. But I have to admit, when I got that, I was like, what? What? I've never had anyone say that they hate my book, and they hate it so much. And the writing was so great, and that made it hate it worse. So anyway,
Yeah.
so yeah, you never can tell what's going to like set people off, which then gave
Yeah.
me really thick skin, because I realized sometimes I'll get a bad review and I'll think, oh, I touched a nerve there. There's something about it. I mean, it's one thing if they're like, yeah, it just didn't hold my interest, or I couldn't get into it. Okay, that's constructive criticism and something I can work on and be like, okay, I
Yeah.
got to grab my reader right away. But if it's like, I didn't like how they handled that topic, she handled that topic, I go, hit a nerve. So it's
Yeah.
okay. That's all right. Not
Yeah.
every book is going to land the right way with people. So it's all
Yeah.
right.
And you do have to have tough skin, and because
Yeah,
not
you
everyone's
do.
going to like what you write about or your style, or
Right.
yeah.
It's okay.
What do you think makes romance satisfying for you as both a writer and a reader?
Well, I think we are wired. I think God made us to like romance. I think the great
Mm-hmm.
romance is, hero and a heroine that, I mean, I look at Adam and Eve, right? Eve and Adam fit together. They are to complement each other, right? And so a great romance is when two people are working together and they complement each other and they have joy in their relationship, right? So, and then also that the fact that God loves us and we're fully known by him and he loves us is overwhelming and just breathtaking. So, but that's what true love is. It's, I love you so much, I would give my life for you. And I know you, and you don't have to hide from me, and I still accept you. And so,
Mm-hmm.
so true love has no rejection. True love has that complete love. And it's not that you're not, you're perfect. It's that you are loved even with all of your faults, right? So I
Right.
think that spark inside of us as humans to be loved that unconditionally, that wholly, is something that we're drawn to, right? And so if we see it in a romance, we go, oh, and there's almost a longing for it. We're like, oh, that's what it feels like to be loved. And if you're lucky enough to be in a relationship that has that, but in the end, I always try to point my readers to the Lord and say, he is the one that gives us that unconditional love. And yes, we can be in a great relationship and romance on earth, but it is a dim reflection of actually the true relationship that we're going to have with God, or that we do
Yeah.
have with God. And so I think that's what sparks inside of me if I can write a great romance. And especially if the both of them are like leaning on the Lord, I think that's a really great ending to the story as they sort of march on together in the future.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I think it's that spark that's inside all of us to love
Mm-hmm.
love. So
Yeah. I agree. I think that's exactly how God created us to be. That's one of the things, like, I love the damsel in distress trope.
Hmm. Yeah.
Not that my damsels don't fight back, they fight back, but they kind of need a hand up from a guy, right? To
Yeah.
kind of get
Yeah.
him up. But I always say, like, to me, when I look at it's like when Jesus came down, because I was the damsel in distress, right?
Hmm.
And he
Hmm.
paid the ultimate price to get me out. And yeah, so I love your analogy there. That's awesome. Okay, are you ready to do a few fun rapid fire questions?
Sure. Hit me.
Okay. All right. This one's not necessarily rapid fire. It might take a little thinking. I don't know. If you could cast actors to play your main characters, who would you choose?
Henry Cavill, and for sure, and then of course if he's blonde, Chris Hemsworth. So just those two, and my heroines, and they just vary so much. I'm trying to think of characters that I really love. I like Kate Hudson a lot, especially when she was younger. I really, really loved. I mean, she's fine now, but so and I like Carrie Russell. She's smart and she's got funny hair, but I really like her anyway. I like Jennifer Gardner. So yeah, so it's kind of those gals. Sort of none of them are like super like stunning, but they're
Hmm.
just solid gals, right? So I'd
Yeah.
probably use them. Yeah.
Awesome. And I don't know if you do this or not, but what songs would be on the soundtrack for this series?
Oh, I always listen to the Gladiator soundtrack and the Braveheart soundtrack. Those are my two favorite soundtracks. And so yeah, I listen to those a lot. So I would have put those with any movie, but probably the Braveheart one is my favorite. Oh, the other one that's really good is the Narnia soundtrack. If you ever listen to that, that's an amazing soundtrack. So
Yeah.
those are what I put with that. Probably
One of my
Narnia since it's like winter. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that would work. One of mine is Lord of the Rings. I don't know if
Yes, I
you
love
enjoy
the
that.
Lord of the Rings. Yes,
That
I love that one
soundtrack
too.
is really
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
Yeah.
And okay, this is going to be rapid fire. Coffee or tea while writing?
Coffee.
Okay. Are you a plotter or a pantser?
Plotter.
I figured, just from classes I've done with you, like, yeah, you're definitely a plotter. Morning writer or night owl?
Well, it bleeds into the night, so I'll keep
Yeah.
writing as long as the juices are flowing. So yeah, I would say probably night.
Yeah. What's always on your desk while you write?
Gum. I have like 4 things of gum right now that are just here. I always have
So,
gum because I have
do
to
you
chew.
find yourself popping it in constantly?
Oh yeah, like I'll
Yeah.
chew and because I need to like chew and I don't want to eat chips or something, so I
Yep.
just eat gum.
Chew gum. Okay. If your main characters could visit you for dinner, what would you serve and what would you talk about?
I would serve steak and wine, and I would talk about their greatest adventures, like the things that they did that impacted them the most.
That's awesome. And you do a lot of cooking, right? And baking.
I do. I do more cooking. So we have a lot of guests, which we love, and down in Florida and in Minnesota, and we have dinner parties a lot. We have people that come over, and so we love to cook. My husband and I both love to cook, so we usually come up with something fun for the weekend. And we often will have steak, and we're also wine drinkers, although we don't. I mean, we maybe drink one bottle a week, so it's not like we're and it's usually with guests,
Yeah.
but we like good wine. So we go to Napa, we buy good wine. In Europe, we buy good wine. So we have 3 wine fridges full of wine, and we enjoy our wine.
Yeah.
But you got to pair the wine with the right food. So that's the thing. We'll pick the wine, and then we'll go, what food should we have with it? So
Yeah.
kind of like if you have a white, a Chardonnay, you probably want to have something like pasta or something like that with it, and whatever, right? So
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, wonderful. What do you hope your readers will feel when they finish this series? I mean, is there like a strong theme throughout, or
Yeah, well, for sure, it's hope and second chances. Like, and I think it's perseverance. Like, that's part of this series is just like the perseverance of staying on track with, what the dogs are teaching you and what and the series itself is fun because it's basically a plane crash at the beginning. So I set up this whole thing where there's these bad guys and you find yourself at the apex or at the ignition of the story where the bad guys are about to get sort of caught, and there's a plane and it goes down, and these people scatter from the plane, and these dogs have to find all the people. So it kind of expands the plot and what's going on. So all three of them have stories about. So the first one is about Dawson and Keely. She's one of the passengers. The second one is about the bad guy that's on the plane, and Harley Tatum, that's a fun one, and Jericho Bowie. So Jericho has a dog named Orlando, and Harley is his girlfriend from long ago, and that's a why not wise. They are enemies to lovers, and I really love that one. And then the third one is a guy named Wilder, and Stormy is the heroine, and for the life of me, I cannot think of the dog's name. But anyway, I should pull up the manuscript so I can remember. But anyway, but he's a dog musher, and Stormy's a veterinarian. And so he was the third person on the plane. And also there's a daughter, and there's dog mushing, and there's running through the woods, and it's just really, really fun. Yeah, it's a great story.
Yes.
So yeah.
And so when this episode comes out, book 2 will be available. So for those of you
Yes.
listening, you can get book 1 and 2, and then book 3 you said will be in the fall.
Yeah, I think it is in October sometime, like mid-October or something like that. So
I
yes.
would say if you're listening to this episode, now's a great time to start reading. You'll be ready for book 3 when it comes out.
Exactly. I'm just going to look at, so we have Caspian, Orlando, and I'm trying to think of what the dog's name. I'm trying to look up the dog's name.
I get it. I have like a whole Excel spreadsheet for each series because you can't, just to track everybody, and you weave your characters from one series into the next, so I can imagine you've got to have a system there.
I do.
Sure.
So I found the dog's name. His name is Rome. I knew I couldn't remember. Rome. His name's Rome.
I love those names.
Yeah, they were really fun names. I was like, I started with the dogs' names, and then I built the whole story around the dogs.
I love it. I love it.
But I do have an Excel sheet, and I've been working a lot on keeping that Bible. So I just need to make sure I add the dogs' names into the Bible.
So where can readers connect with you?
Yeah, so they can go to my website, SusanMayWarren.com. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. There is a freebie. If you go to my website, you can get a free download of a free book, which is kind of fun. And then I put out a newsletter twice a week. They're kind of fun. I got a lot of pictures in them, and sometimes I give stuff away. Sometimes I give free sneak peeks. So there's always something fun. Sometimes I tell people what I'm having for dinner. And sometimes I even give links to recipes. Yeah. So
yes, I highly recommend her newsletter. That's how I knew that you like to cook.
There you go.
But there's always some sort of adventure in there too, so I really enjoy them.
Oh, thank you. I'm so glad. Sometimes they're scary adventures. Sometimes they're fun adventures. So it just depends. So yeah. So I'm glad. Yeah, it is. And they are fun to write. I'm always like, what am I going to write this week?
Is there anything else that you'd like to share that we didn't get to touch on for this series or any upcoming projects?
No, I think that I really think people will like these books. They are a little bit deeper than some of my other books, I think, because I went a little deeper with the characters. I went a little deeper with the dogs. So I think people will enjoy them. They've got lots of layers to them. They're very fast paced and fun. Yeah, Ravel always does such a great job. It's nice to have, when you write books on your own, you're kind of like, well, you're one man team. But when you write with a publisher, you've got like their input, and that always helps make the book really deep and strong. And so I really love that about that. So anyway, but they're really fun stories. Characters are great, and it's just another chance to hang out in Alaska with all of the great search and rescue people. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for hopping on and spending time with us and sharing about the series and your writing.
Well, thank you so much for having me. This has been really fun.
Thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If so, please consider sharing our podcast. Every share helps us reach more readers and authors like you. Until next time, happy and blessed reading and writing.